like waking me up, taking this is our time. Just breathe, this will be a hard fight. The truth cash out in the night.
All right, how is everybody? It looks like we got some people already jumping in. Hey, Mandy, it is good to see you. Yes, Brooke is on tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun, exciting. She's such a sweet person, just a great aura. So we're going to have a good time tonight. And now the bad news is you guys are stuck with me all night. It's just me. Johnny is still in the field. He's at the happy place with one of his guys, and he hit me up today and said that he wasn't able to connect, so he does not have any connection whatsoever out there in Georgia. He said that they had installed a new cell tower out there, and for some reason it ruined everything, so he doesn't have any service or anything like that. So it is just me, and if he can wing it, if he can find a way, I'm sure he'll jump in and come in on the show and stuff like that. So we'll have to see and see what happens and stuff like that. So like a lot of you guys know, I spent a lot of time in the woods almost every single weekend, and I have not been able to do that for the last couple months, basically since December. We've discussed it. One of my officers was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and it's not a good prognosis for him. So I've been short-staffed and really kind of relinquent in trying to fill his position because of loyalty to my guys. But I'm at that point where I've been working 7 days a week since December, so I did hire somebody. They'll start next week, so hopefully the first day I'll get in the woods is next Sunday, and I'll get back to normal. So those of you that do follow me on BFFG Bigfoot Research, I'll get back at it, guys. I'll be out there, hiking and trying to find as much as I can. Of course, Johnny has his channel, Sasquatch Encounter Brigade. So this weekend he is, back out there again like he was last time. So hopefully he finds some stuff, and you can go to his channel and check out any evidence that he finds. I'm pretty sure on our next podcast he will bring it up if there's anything that he found and stuff like that. We have a very, very busy schedule this month leading up to the Bigfoot Conference. So any of you guys that are going to the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference, try to find us. Me and Johnny will be there, and we'd love to meet you and talk to you and stuff like that. So we're gearing up for that. So for the rest of the month, Brooke included, and we have some other guests that will be coming on this month. They're all people that are going to be at the conference, researchers and stuff like that. So kind of like a build-up to before the conference, because with us in the state of Florida, I don't know about other states, the Bigfoot Conference is like our Super Bowl. So we're really excited that we can all get together on that day and stuff like that, and meet some great people, meet new people. Last year I met a lot of great friends and stuff like that, and made new friends, and I'm looking forward to doing that again this year. One of our regular guests, he may jump in later. He's out to dinner with his wife. What a romantic. And Lenny, y'all know Lenny. He's kind of like our attorney. We've been good friends with Lenny for quite a few months now, and so he's going to be at the conference, and we were talking earlier tonight and stuff. And so I got him a shirt. Hey, Sunshine, good to see you. So kind of give you an idea, this is the new shirt, and has the QR code and everything on there. So got some shirts be given to some people that I know and have supported me and been there for me and stuff like that. So I'll be getting with them and stuff. These are not shirts for sale, guys, okay? They're too expensive. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about, hey, I want to do shirts, and what do you think? And I was like, it's really not worth it. I bought 16 shirts, and I'm not even going to tell you the price, but it was a lot of money. You could do the math. They're $17.50 a piece. and that's getting a shirt, a quality shirt, and getting the print. Um, so, for example, I mailed three of them out to different people, one in Indiana, one in Missouri, and one in Georgia. It cost me $10 per shirt just to mail them out. So now you got a shirt that's $27.50. So there's no profit margin in there because who's going to pay $30 or $35 for a T-shirt? See what I'm saying? I love my shirt. It ain't worth $35. So um, what I do is I'll make them periodically. I might make more, and I give them out. I give them away to friends and different people that are good supporters of the show and good people and stuff like that. So that's where the shirts are. So tonight we have Brooke Moreland. I have little does she know it. I've seen her in the past. Just never had an opportunity to talk to her and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to talk to her tonight and listen to what she has to say about her research. And we'll get into what she's doing and stuff like that. She does also getting into the podcast field, so she'll go over that. And I really encourage you guys subscribe to her podcast, show her some support, show her love. You guys have always been fantastic to me and to Johnny and stuff on not just this channel but our other channels, and we'd like to show that love for her as well. So with that, I'm going to bring her on and get started. Hey, Brooke, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Oh no, it's fantastic. I've been looking forward to this, and like I said, I'm sorry Johnny couldn't make it, but he definitely puts Bigfoot research ahead of everything else. He's got a pregnant wife at home, and he's out there looking for Bigfoot. So, you got to love his dedication. So, you know,
Absolutely.
and like I said, he may jump in. Who knows? He might say, "Hey, I'm going to run into town and park my truck and jump on or something." I don't know. It's he's more than welcome anytime. I love Johnny. He's definitely a brother from another mother. So, but so you're in Florida.
Yes.
Are you a Florida girl, born and raised, or transplant?
I am a transplant, but I'd like to think of myself as a Florida native now. I've lived here for the past decade. I'm originally from Annapolis, Maryland. So I came down to Florida. Oh my gosh, it really is about to be 10 years. So
Nice.
it just has a special place in my heart. I had a calling to come here, and I feel like I'm finally getting to live out that calling now. I feel like it was meant for me to be here. And I just love everything about Florida. And I consider myself a native at this point.
It's truly the Sunshine State. I mean, when you come here, I tell people all the time when they created tinted windows and AC in cars, they had California and Florida in mind when they did that. It's a beautiful state, and because you're a researcher and you're into Bigfoot and all things Bigfoot, you realize that Florida is not just all beaches and sunshine. We have swamps, we have forests, and we have a lot of wildlife. It's a very diverse ecosystem here in the state of Florida.
It is. I think that's what makes it a target-rich environment for Bigfoot because there are so many places besides the beach. I mean, when you drive outside of Tampa, outside of Orlando, you get into the country and you see how much land is really out there and how it's very possible for something to be hiding out in the woods. And I think one thing about Florida that people don't realize either is when you get outside of the city and you go into the woods, it's so thick. The brush here is so different. I lived in South Carolina for a little bit too, and I would love to go hiking up there. And this is before I bridged the gap between hiking and Bigfoot. And I would go hiking almost every day on my day off in this place called Hitchcock Woods. And I would just go get lost on purpose for fun. And the terrain up there is different, and so is the woods. And even in Maryland, but you come here, it's so thick. You have palmettos, you have
Mm.
all kinds of vegetation that makes it really hard to transverse it like easily.
Oh, it does, and that's what I tell people all the time. I can be walking in the woods, and then you get to basically a field of palmettos. You can't tromp through it. You have to go around it. It is such a major obstacle, and besides tromping through it, you can't see the ground. So you got snakes, hogs, different things hiding in there. Let alone you make a ton of racket. Palmettos are very loud when you're tromping through them. So I try to find pine forests and hardwood areas, and sometimes swamps. I take my rubber boots, and sometimes I'm walking through the water. So
Oh yeah, the cypress sneeze.
yeah, they're treacherous. People don't realize when you're in about, let's say, I don't know, a foot of water, and because we have a rainy season and it rains a lot, and those things are slick and they're sharp. They
Oh yeah.
always come up to a point, and if you step on one and slip and fall, you can get seriously hurt walking through the swamps, through the cypress knees and stuff like that. So you got to definitely be careful. And I tell people that all the time. There's a lot of things in Florida that want to hurt you. A lot of things. So
That's true. Even the pine needles are dangerous. They can get pretty slick too, especially if there's like dew in the morning or a little bit of water on the ground, and you can
hmm
go sailing on those easily too.
oh, especially if there's a slope or something that you have to go down, you definitely have to be careful.
Yeah.
Not that we got mountains. We're considered
No.
we are the flattest state in the nation. So, but let me say hi to a couple people. Dirt Road is in. But that's my buddy right there. That's Icebox. Great guy. He's up in Indiana. And Gant, nice to see you. I am glad you're here. And she said, "Go Brooke." Yes, go Brooke. So,
Awesome.
so let's start. So what originally got you involved with Bigfoot? You know what I mean? You've been here for 10 years. Uh, I don't know if this was something you were into while you were in Maryland, or is something you just kind of fell into that rabbit hole when you came to Florida.
Right, the Bigfoot bug. Yeah, so what got me into Bigfoot was my nanny, my grandmother. She just passed away recently within the last month. And she
I'm
actually,
sorry.
yes, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. She really had such an impact on my life, and it's crazy looking at it retrospectively now, and it really is all her why I'm into Bigfoot. So it's just, I'm sure she's up there smiling going, "Oh my gosh, look at her now. She's going to be at the conference." And it's just a really it makes it mean more, I think. And so anyways, she lived in Florida back in the late 60s, early 70s, and she had a sighting here in Florida. And I recall growing up, she told me that story. And what happened to her is that she was delivering papers. And what people also don't know is that Florida had a ton of trees, and I mean, a ton of forest before we kind of came in and chopped
Mhm.
everything down. So this is really before it's as built up as the Florida you see today. So go back in time and just picture all the woods. And the community that they were living in was just still newly developed. And so all the logs and stuff from the construction were still stacked up. And they were coming out in the mornings and they were just spread like matchsticks around the community. And people were scared because it took heavy equipment and bulldozers and things to even stack them in the first place. And something is coming and, tossing them all over like it's nothing. And so she was scared and there was like a tension in the air. And so she started parking her truck really close to her house because she's delivering papers and she has to get up really early in the morning to go out there. So she's afraid and she starts parking the truck close to the house. Well, one morning she comes out and she gets in the truck and she told me that she was chased by Sasquatch, and that she recalls just the terrible odor that it had, and she was so frightened by that. And she never like went out looking for Bigfoot or anything like that. It was just one of those stories, that your grandma tells you. And as she got older, she did develop dementia, and I wanted to record her telling her story, so I had it. And to this day, my mom was able to capture it on one of the visits with her. Her story never changed. And it was like she'd be talking to you. And then once, say, "Hey, tell me about Bigfoot, tell me about Sasquatch." It's like her expression completely changes. It does like a 180. And she's like, "Oh, well, that was really scary." And it's like took her right back to that spot. And so she was the one who kind of, I guess, first put it in my mind. And, I've always been a very open-minded person, and I'm like, I feel like that there's more out there than just us. I feel like it's such a big world, and I used to listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and I got pretty burnt out on that. I was over listening to all the just horrific things of this world. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna look into Bigfoot. And then that's when I came across, Bigfoot and paranormal podcast, and then discovered that there was a conference here in Florida. And I've always been outdoorsy, always hiked, always did that. So then I kind of just took it a step further and actually put some intention behind it besides just going out for a hike. But like, okay, I'm going to actually like be strategic about this. And yeah, I went to my first conference, and the rest is history.
Yeah, the conferences have a habit of doing that, where it makes that rabbit hole a whole lot bigger. You know what I mean? It really does. And I do the same thing. I think the forest is a wonderful place. I love to be out there. Like I said earlier, it recharges my batteries and stuff like that. And I approach it different than a lot of other researchers, where one, I don't want to habituate one. I don't want to gift and stuff like that, because I really don't want to get that personal with them. Um,
Right.
but I tell people all the time, because especially those that make fun of me or whatever, or say something about it, and I'm like, first of all, Bigfoot people are not causing any harm in the woods. We're hiking, we're getting exercise, we love the outdoors, we love camping and stuff like that. A lot of people do that, and they're looking for birds. We're just looking for Bigfoot. So it's no harm, no foul. We're not hurting anybody or anything like that, but we're really aware of our surroundings and what's going on. And the more you're out there, the more you're aware. I was an avid hunter for a long time, before I had my encounter, and that ended hunting. I don't hunt anymore, and haven't hunted since '05. And it brought out a lot of things that I may have experienced in the past while I was hunting, and I pay a lot more attention to the things that are around me: smells, sounds,
Hmm.
structures or possible structures, things that I would have walked by and not paid any attention to in the past. See what I'm saying? That's that rabbit hole. That's what brings you in.
It is. It is. And then hearing other people's encounters and things that they're coming across and making those connections. And I think, like, as humans, we try to draw connections between things and make things work because it is so unexplainable. So we try to rationalize it. And yeah, the more you hear from different people about things, you're right. You're like, oh, I never anticipated that being connected, but yet it is. So yeah, you were definitely using all your senses out there. You have to. You absolutely have to, because to your point, as far as the smells and things like that go, when you said that there's other animals in Florida, everything wants to kill you, that's no joke. Again, but it's a beautiful place here. But at the same time, we have panthers, we have bears, we have coyotes, bobcats, snakes. But those are things that if you're not aware of your surroundings in the woods, you can find yourself in an unsafe situation. Like, you don't ever want to get pounced on by a large cat or something. So you have to really be paying attention to your senses at all times.
Yeah, I get a lot of slack for it, because I go out in the woods alone. I'm always alone. And no, I wouldn't say always. There sometimes I have some people that'll join me and stuff like that. And but 99% of the time I'm alone. And that's one of the biggest fears I tell people all the time is, if I get injured or I get hurt or I get lost, I'm on my own. I got to figure it out. So it makes it's very, you got to pay attention. You really do got to pay attention. So getting lost is actually very easy to do. I know.
It is. It is. And everything looks the same. And I mean, yes, you see the palmettos and stuff, but it's really easy, even with like a group of people. If you get separated by like 100 yards or something, I mean, the way that the pines are here, it really, the forest just kind of encloses and you won't see that person. And you're like, oh, where are they? Did we lose them? And sure enough, then they come
Oh
meandering
yeah.
out. But really, it isn't hard to get lost.
No, no. I've done it to the point where I literally thought I'm spending a night out here, and that's
Oh
not a good.
no.
It's not a good feeling, not a good feeling at all. So, um, talk about, you know, y- your first time. You're going out. You've said, I'm interested in this. I want to, definitely your nanny is a motivator, and which is, my grandmother was also a nanny also,
Oh, I
so,
love that.
and a lot of people don't realize, that's what we call them down here. Our
They think you
grandparents
have
is,
a nanny.
yeah, I have. They used to. They say your
Hmm.
nanny. What the heck? No, no, no. That's my grandmother. It was nanny and
Right.
pawpaw. Nanny and pawpaw. That was my grandparents. You know what I mean? And I was raised by them, so we had a very close bond. So I get it when you say she's very close to you and she's that motivator. I get
Yeah.
it. I get it.
Hmm.
So here you are. She's kind of motivated you, and you're like, I'm going to start getting into this. So start there. Where did you go? What did you do? What was your idea of how you were going to go about it?
Well, luckily, I didn't have to do this alone. When I went to the first conference, I went to a little meet and greet dinner that was put on by John Urban, and he's the guy who does the Bigfoot poker shirts.
Mhm.
And so, well, he does more than that. He's an artist, but anywho, that's one of his more popular designs. And so he had like a meet and greet, and I'm like, well, if I'm going to go to the conference, which you kind of you go for the speakers and stuff, and Politis was there, and Jeff Meldrum, and Ron Moorhead, and just some people I really wanted to see. So it's really cool. We met up, and there I got to meet my friend Marion, and I got to meet some other people, and so that connection was made. Right. So time goes on, time passes, and Christmas time comes around, and we have a Bigfoot Christmas party, which is really cool. And so we reconnected there, and I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to get out in the woods. I've been kind of, itching to go and do it in a more formal fashion. And she's like, let's go, let's plan it, let's do it. So we got connected, and yeah, we went out, and where we research is in the Green Swamp, and it's 500,000 acres of wetlands, and it spans over 5 counties. So it's a pretty significant area of land, and it's a wildlife management area. But not only is there the Green Swamp there, but you have the Withlacoochee, you have Coal Creek State Park. So a big section of area that's there with the invisible borders, but just a huge section of land. And so she has been in the BFRO for a long time, kind of got out of touch with it, because of, life and kids and things like that. But now is at the point where we can go at it more. And so she helped keep me very organized and stuff. And I like it because it's almost like we're a little bit of a yin and yang. I kind of am over here, we're over here, but we kind of balance each other out in that way, which is fun. And like we were kind of talking before the show, we can have discussions on things, and our feelings not be hurt. And we can look at a piece of evidence and go, well, is it this, or is it really that? Or, maybe it's nothing, and we can have that openness there. So the Green Swamp is where we go a lot, but I enjoy doing research in other areas as well, such as like the North Florida Panhandle, Ocala. I really enjoy going to other places too. But one thing I love about the Green Swamp is that it is very close, and I actually had a Class B sighting there. So I'm not sure if maybe your listeners know. I'll explain it for them.
Yeah, you can explain it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. A lot of them don't know the A, B's of sightings. So, yeah, go ahead and explain that to them.
Okay. So the BFRO is the Bigfoot Field Research Organization. And I think they were the one who kind of popularized the term, and it's since been adopted by other people in the field. But basically, they break things up into sightings. And so a Class A sighting would be like you saw Bigfoot face to face. There's no denying it. There's no misidentification. It's not a bear. It's not a coyote. It's not another person. It is Sasquatch. You saw it. So that would be a Class A.
A prime
100%.
example is the PG film. They saw it, they filmed it. That's a Class A sighting.
Exactly. Yes, the Patty film. I love that. Yes, that's a great example. Now, a Class B would be like evidence of something being there, but you didn't put your eyes on what made it. So that's a footprint. That's finding hair, hearing a howl, like a vocalization or something like that. Those would be your Class B sighting. So it's pretty much everything but actually seeing what made the sound or what left the print. And so one thing that's cool about the Green Swamp is they do have hunting there, but when it's not hunting season and it's in the middle of June, nobody's there.
Right.
Like people go there like us, the crazy Bigfooters, and the Florida Trail goes through, so hikers and things. But for the most part, it's such a big area of land that it is remote. You can go and you can get deep in the woods and kind of get away from the noise. And we have e-bikes, and so the benefit of having the e-bikes here in Florida is, as you mentioned, it is incredibly flat here. We don't really have hills. I get excited when I see them, especially up in Ocala. I'm like, this is cool because the Ocala National Forest has a little bit of the grade, but it's primarily very flat. And with it being more humid and hot down here, your energy level, you only have so much when you go out. And so with the
Yeah,
e-bikes,
that's one of the things one of the points I make to people all the time is Um, as far as you walk in, you have to walk that same distance back out, and you're half the energy when you're coming back out that you had when you went in. So you always got to keep that in mind.
Totally, totally, and especially in Florida. I mean, I had heat exhaustion for the first time last year, and I didn't even realize like that's what had happened until afterwards. And Marion's like, "Oh my God, I think you had like a not a heat stroke, but I
Hmm.
my vision went black. I started getting the chills. I'm like, oh my gosh!" And that was with drinking water, eating the carbohydrate chews, having the electrolytes. Like it. Nobody is exempt from the sun here, like you
No.
think you're the toughest person out there and the wilderness will humble you quickly.
Well, I
So,
got family members that came from Chicago and lived down here for a very short time. They couldn't handle it, and they were like, "How do you handle the heat?" I said, "Well, you have to understand, Floridians is we don't stand in the heat. We find shady spots, and we wear certain clothing that's lightweight and doesn't attract heat, and we wear shorts, and we hydrate. We drink a lot of water. No different than them up north. You layer. You don't go out when it's a certain freezing temperatures, and you know what I mean.
yeah.
So yeah, I get it. It's the heat. It's the humidity. It just sucks
Mhm.
the moisture right out of your body.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it gets hot, and so we utilize the e-bikes because it helps us get a little bit further. We do have the pedal assist, or you can go completely manual, but that is nice after you're tired, and you can just go full scooter all the way back to your car. So we use the e-bikes to get in a little bit deeper, get away from people, get away from anything that could be misidentified. That's the first thing. Footprints in the thing, but if it's a highly trafficked area, you kind of gotta use your discernment there. So we get in pretty deep into the woods and then we can get out and tuck the bikes back and hike around. So we'd been primitive camping out there. It was the middle of June and we hadn't seen anybody the entire time that we were out there. And we were coming back from one of the locations and we had already traveled on this road previously in the day and during our time there. This was like our second day there. And we're driving along and the way that their roads are they're primarily made out of like limestone, sand, and mud. So that's kind of the composite there. So there are some sections where you can get some really nice prints. And with the rain, you do have patches of mud and things like that. So you can see raccoons and mice and bears, whatever's going through the area. It's really fun to sit and look at the trackways. And so as we're riding, always looking down for prints and stuff too, which that's one thing as like a Bigfoot researcher is like, I try to tell myself to look up because I feel like I'm so often kind of like looking down, looking around that we forget to look up. So that's just a little piece of advice. But anyway, so we're going along and I see these prints and I'm like, no freaking way. This is crazy. So slam on the brakes. I'm like, okay, we got to stop. And we had some other folks with us. So we get out and we start looking at them and we find these tracks and there is a trackway and it's going off the trail. It's not going on this main road trail. It's going off the trail into the woods. And thank God there was that mud there because you could clearly see where like the toes had dug in. And now some folks say that there is a barefoot runner in the green swamp. So take that as you may. But I mean, for me, these were just incredible. So we get out and we start measuring them and they were 12 and a half inches long, by 5 inches wide and 2 inches deep in that mud. And we're checking them out and we're looking at them. So I took a ton of pictures and I'm like, this is insane. Like, I really can't believe we're seeing this because you can clearly see where someone had walked. And I'm like, this is cool. Like, this is what we're here for. Wow. And so get it, measure it, all that stuff. And due to the hesitation of hearing that there could have been a barefoot runner or something like that, I didn't release any of the images of the prints until later. And we actually went to the Great Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference that the same
Gatlinburg.
people. Right. They hosted in Tennessee and we stayed with some BFRO investigators there. And, when Bigfoot people get together, well, what did you see? Oh, tell me about your story. And so, we're trading stories and I'm like, well, hey, I got these, prints and da da da. And I showed it to them and they were like, oh my gosh. And what was really cool, she's like, I didn't even tell her. And she was like, did these prints go off the trail? And I was like, and she's like, did they go off the trail into the woods? And I was like, yeah, they did. And so that was just really cool. And she really like, I was like, oh, I needed that like little bit of validation. And then we come back from that, and then I want to say it was a few weeks later, a picture came out, supposedly from a trail cam in the Green Swamp, and I am not saying that that is 100%, but it was interesting and it got me thinking. And it's of a looks like what my interpretation of is the back of a Sasquatch with possibly like a little one in tow, maybe like a juvenile behind. And when I saw that and I said, I have these prints, I'm like, it just felt inauthentic to not share it, to kind of to hold it in any longer. So I decided to publish them and share them with the world. And everybody was really, really kind about it. And we're like, oh my gosh, those are so cool.
Yeah. And don't let anybody ever discourage you to put stuff out. You know what I mean? If you feel confident and it's yours, you know what I mean? Um, Put it out there. You know what I mean? Especially if you have, a support group of other researchers, even if they're in another state, just somebody that you've been able to, bond with and share and say, hey, I got this. Give me your honest opinion. See what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's the great thing about it is, if you have that type of support group, nobody gets upset. You know what I mean? Somebody shows you something, it is or it isn't, or you're not sure, and they just want your opinion. That's all. So don't let it
Right.
ever discourage you.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely have to. I've been working on getting past that, but it just felt inauthentic, to hold on to it, because I think what I'm here to do is I look at it almost as like an investigative journalism, and I kind of try to approach it in that way of going where the evidence takes me and trying to remove my own bias, because obviously I think you can ask 10 Bigfoot researchers, what do you think Bigfoot is? And you're going to get 10 very different answers, and that's okay. But I think sometimes we put our bias on things or on evidence. So trying to approach it in a non-biased way and going where the evidence takes you and vetting it. Yeah. And I felt good at that point. I was like, I need to be authentic and share this with people. And so that way, I'm being true to myself and true to what I set out to do.
No, absolutely, and and that's where your credibility comes in. Is and I'll use Johnny as an example because I've said this many times in the past. What made me a big fan of Johnny, years ago, was the fact that he put out some evidence because he does not shy away from putting things out, and he put it out there. And it was a short period of time, like a week later or 2 weeks later, he comes back on and does another video, debunks what he thought he had. He's like, "Hey, I'm sorry, it's not what I thought it was," and that was the integrity that he had, and those are the people I like to be around. We go into it, of course, actually trying to find this thing and see this thing and hear this thing and stuff like that. But as researchers, we also have to go in it with skepticism and debunk things when we can debunk them. You know what I mean? Because when you can get rid of the clutter, then you get the diamond. And so you have to get past all the stuff that maybe might, who knows, to the, wow, this is solid. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I tell that to people all the time. Skepticism is really good. I had somebody tell me that they were still a little skeptic on Bigfoot, and I said skepticism is good because skepticism creates questions, and questions create answers. So coming into it with a little bit of skepticism. So I can send you an audio, and you'll hear it, and you're a little skeptic because you might think it's a coyote or something like that. That's okay. See what I'm saying? It's fine.
Right.
You
Hmm.
know, and like you said, people have to get past that pride, and just accept the
Yeah.
fact that we already know that people are not going to accept everything that we put out there. We get that. You know what I mean?
And I think absolutely. And I think even if, I mean, look at how scrutinized you brought up the PG film, the Patterson Gimlin Bluff Creek video. I mean, that is one of the most heavily scrutinized. And even Ron Moorhead, when I heard the Sierra sounds, I'm not gonna lie, the first time I heard him, I was sold. And I still personally believe that they're legit. I do. But those have come under really heavy scrutiny, I've realized in recent years. People are, so I think almost people aren't gonna even then, it's like almost if we could get them in the same room, finally people would be like,
Right.
oh, okay. But yeah, I feel like with anything, you're always going to have naysayers or people who you could have the best piece of evidence, your gold run, and you're still going to have somebody who says like, that's not real, or that's this or
Right.
that. And I think, I don't think we do it for those people anyways, because I think that those people's minds you're never gonna change. And I think we do
Right.
it for the other people in the community who maybe can't get out there, and get into the woods. So they rely on people like me and you who can go out and do these things and bring it back and say, hey, this is what we found.
Exactly. And that when I started my channel BFFG, that was what I put out there, and that's what I said, and that's what I do. Is I do this for me. It's really for me. By myself, I'm out there looking, but I tell my subscribers and viewers that I'm also doing it for you. Those that don't live where they can go to the woods or don't have the ability to leave the home and go into the woods and stuff. You can live vicariously through my videos and stuff like that, and I'll take you along for the ride. And let them see what I see, let them hear what I hear, let them experience from the safety of their home what I'm doing while I'm out there. Exactly. That's exactly. I feel the exact same way.
Yeah. Yeah, because there are a lot of people. You go to the conference, and that's why I'm really excited to be a part of it. And I kind of would like to look at myself in the sense of like I would like to pick up the torch and carry it on for the next generation, because you go and there are a lot of older folks there, which is fantastic, and they have some of the best stories to tell. In my opinion, I think we can learn a lot from the people who have come before us. There's a lot of good information that we can learn, and yeah, I want to be able to bring it to that next generation and bridge the gap. And a lot of those folks, they can't go out anymore, and or may not have the capability. So yeah, being able to give a voice and give a platform to people who otherwise wouldn't have that. And
Oh,
it's a sense of
absolutely.
community.
It is, and well, to an extent, there's way too much bickering, but
Yeah.
and that's where the pride thing comes in, where somebody think, well, I don't like your evidence because mine's better, and it just
Yeah.
doesn't work that way, But like you said, especially with the generations, and I say that a lot too, where I encourage people, go in the woods, take your children out there, teach them the woods because it's going away. It's not going to be here forever. It's going away. You're in Florida. You see where things are changing,
Hmm.
and I encourage, get your children out there. Go camping for 3 days. Enjoy. Build a fire. You know what I mean? Enjoy the outdoors and stuff like that. So yeah, absolutely. The next generation does need to hopefully we figure this all out. While I'm still alive. But if not, I hope
Right.
there are people that continue to move forward with this subject and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think if anybody who wants to go out, I think I hadn't been camping as an adult until this past year. And I'll tell you, it was at first I was scared. I was like, when I went primitive camping, it sounds menacing and scary. And it's like, oh gosh, can you do that? And it's like, once you get past the mental barrier, there's nothing that you cannot do. And I don't like the word, oh, I can't do that. It's like, no, you won't do that. And it's so many people here, oh, you're going out camping. They're like, oh, I can never do that. Oh. And it's like, you just got to get past whatever fear that's there and just embrace it. And honestly, I have completely fallen in love with it. And there's almost nothing that I enjoy doing more now than being out and being in the woods and going camping. And there's just something really freeing about it, and really that just kind of calms your nervous system. And and it's cool. And we get to go, like you said, Bigfoot is our hobby, and we get to, bridge that gap and get to go out and do that too. And if anybody's like hesitant, I would just say do your research, make sure you're prepared. And then, even if you're like a little scared, I promise you'll be like, oh, this wasn't that bad. It's actually so peaceful being out and just hearing the ambient noise of the forest, or, the woods, and anybody can do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I enjoy it because, like I said earlier, that's where I recharge my batteries. That's where I'm one with the earth, and I can smell the smells, I see what I can see, and I hear what I can hear, and I enjoy it. Now I do, and I'm not shameful about it at all. Even in my videos, if I get spooked, I get spooked, and I tell them I'm spooked. I'm not feeling comfortable right now. I'm honest with my viewers, like, okay, I'm not feeling really comfortable. I'm think I'm going to start hiking back. You know what I mean? I'm 2-3 miles in right now, so it's going to take me some time to get back. So I'm going to start working back and stuff like that. And it's kind of funny too that, especially when you're camping, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but you get inside your tent, you feel safer, and that tent ain't gonna save you, but you feel
I
safer
know.
inside the tent.
It is so true. And it is interesting you talk about that feeling. I'd love to talk more about that. Is that it's really important to keep that intuition. And I think I pride myself in having good intuition on people and on things. And it was not long ago we were up in Ocala. And that's the thing too, is that I heard somebody say, if you take a ghost hunters to a house, they're going to tell you it's haunted. If you take Bigfooters to a place, they're going to tell you Bigfoot's there. So I understand there's that confirmation bias. So again, working past that and being objective, but we're in this area and we were going to get out, and there are some Indian mounds that were there, and been to that location before, done some research there in the past. Cool spot, really cool spot, really kind of you if you don't know about it, you don't know about it. And so we get there, and what we did see is on this dirt road, we saw human tracks, and they're these big boots, and we saw them, and they kind of go back into the woods, and there's no denying that they were boots, but they were large, at least like 16 inches, which is
Wow.
very large for a boot. And so we see that, and we're like, oh, okay. And we kind of keep going in. And then we're about to get out of the car, and I'm like, and I kind of don't want to be the first one to say, because you never want to be that person that's like, ooh, like I'm the one who's too scared to go, or something like that. You don't want to be the one who's like, oh gosh, they're holding us back. But luckily, some of my other friends I was with, they spoke up and they're like, I'm not feeling too good about this. Like, I have a really, really bad feeling. And I'm like, I do too. Like, I have this like impending doom feeling. Like, if we get out of the car, that something really bad is going to happen. And it's almost like that fight or flight kind of kicks in. And we decided, you know what? Nope. We're going to respect that, and we're going to turn around and we're going to leave. And I swear, as soon as we left and we kind of got back on that main road, it was like totally at calm, totally at peace. And we went researching somewhere else in the Ocala forest that night.
I had almost an exact same thing happen where I was with somebody else. We're walking down this trail, and literally at the same time, we both look at each other like, dude, I'm not feeling the same I was 100 yards ago. I don't feel right. I feel, something, like we're being watched or something. I just did not feel right. And then they were like, yeah, I feel the same way. And it was really weird because, we continue to try to push forward, but as we continue to push forward, that feeling just got stronger and stronger. So we finally said, you know what, let's turn around. We went back, and literally once we got out of that area, we did feel like instantly better. And which was funny because when we had walked that trail, you're watching everything. You're paying attention to everything. And on the way back, there was this, fairly decent sized branch that was fresh laying right there. We would have saw it if the first time we walked through. And
Right.
then there it was when we came back. So intuition is big, very big.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I even hear that people talk about that with, just different things you hear in the woods. I don't know. What is your opinion on the wood knocks?
I've been a very big advocate for years now that it is not them hitting a tree with a stick. It's just and the reason why I say that, and I always give an explanation when I give my opinion. I also tell why. This is why I come up with this opinion. Is we've all been out in the woods, we've all hiked, and if me and you could be in the woods, and I can instantly just stop and say, Brooke, grab a stick and hit that tree. How long will it take you to find a good stick, a good tree that makes that sound? That sound always sounds the same. Okay? Every time I hear somebody send wood knots or say, hey, listen to this, they all sound the same. So that would mean the same type of stick, the same type of tree, stuff like that. For example, You hit a pine tree, you don't really get a good knock on a pine tree. But if you find
Right.
a hardwood, you get a lot better hardwood. But also, you can't hit a hardwood with a branch of a pine tree. It just doesn't. See what I'm saying?
Uh,
So, in
yes.
my mind, a Sasquatch would have the same issue of, oh, there's a human. I better find a stick to let people know, or my creature friends know that there's humans out here. I don't think, and we've never, as long as I've been doing this, I've never seen anybody's encounter where a Sasquatch is walking through the woods with a stick on the shoulder or whatever. See what I'm saying? So
Right.
he's not prepared to do a wood knock. So I was always a very big advocate that it was a vocal, and that they either make it with their hands or on their chest or with their
A tongue
mouth.
click. Yeah.
It's got to be some, and I don't know how. I don't know which way they do it, but I just feel that they're doing it physically. Only because I, not that I think this thing is an ape, but I tend to watch a lot of gorilla documentaries to understand primates and how they work. And I was watching this one where these gorillas were in the zoo, and every time this gorilla hit his chest, his mouth was cocked open like
Mm.
that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think hitting, because they have a cavity, it echoes, and their mouth is like a speaker. You know what I mean? Makes it
Mm-hmm.
sound louder. Because if you look at him, they're hitting their chest, and if his, I don't think you would hear it as well if his mouth wasn't open. See what I'm saying?
Right.
So that made me think that maybe that is what they're doing. Is they're I don't think the wood knocks are actually geared towards us. I think it's for them. I think they're commuting with them. I don't think
Yeah.
they really give a rat's butt about us, to be honest with you. I think we're more of an annoyance, or we may be entertainment, but I don't think they're overly concerned with communicating with us. That's just my theory. I think they're
Right.
really busy just trying to survive and live and find an environment that they're left alone. I think that's more of a priority.
Yeah. I asked because I've heard some different theories lately on the wood knocks, and how we were talking about that feeling. And part of that, I wonder if it's that primal feeling, like that instinctual thing where we can sense that danger and we know it's time to go. But I've even heard some that are saying, like, when you're hearing certain wood knocks or certain things, it's your sign to turn around and leave and not press on. And I've had that conversation with some other researchers about when they get those feelings in the woods to respect them, because
Mm-hmm.
it's your body saying don't press on, and they could be emitting something, or it's almost a size of, I don't want to say like aggression, but saying like you don't need to come any further, like you might be close to our family or close to our tribe or something like that. So that's why I was curious about the wood knocks. I've heard some different things lately.
Yeah, and like I said, these are just my opinions, just my theories, and which makes things more comfortable for me in the woods. So you're going to come up with what makes you feel more comfortable or what makes sense to you. Um, like I said, to me it's a vocalization. That's just how I feel. I think because like I said, the tone is always the same and stuff like that. Rock clacking is different. I've heard rock clacking. It sounds completely different. You can hear it and say that sounds like two rocks being hit together. Where when you hear a wood knock, I think we call it a wood knock due to lack of a better term, just like we call him
Right.
Bigfoot. We call him Bigfoot because he got Bigfoot. We don't call him. We don't go around and say, "Did you see that big hairy flat nose thing?" You know what I mean? We call
Right.
it that because that's just what we associate with, and I think that's where the wood knock thing, you know, the first person who ever coined it, it just caught on and it made sense and stuff like that. So, but I don't
Yeah.
think necessarily that's what it is. You know what I
That's
mean?
really interesting. I love that. I'm really gonna have to think about that, because as far as like the clicking with the mouth, a little fun fact about me is when I'm just in my natural element at my home, I sing, I make goofy noises, and I do this popping noise. I will spare all the listeners, but anybody who knows
Oh
me.
no, you brought it up now. You have to do it. They're in there. They're gonna start jumping on it and say, "No, do it. No, you got to do
Okay.
it, Brooke."
All right, let me see if I can do it. So it's
Yeah,
like that. Was that good? So
yeah,
imagine something a lot big, and if I really focus, I can get it really loud.
right.
And so that I've never can even consider that. That's something I'm gonna have to think about, because that is really interesting. That could be them using, their mouse. That's
Well,
really interesting.
and you got something with a way larger mouth than a human,
Exactly.
way larger tongue than a human. So I think that
And probably a different, mouth structure in
right.
general a
You
little
know,
bit.
I mean, there's the theory that they have different vocal cords and stuff like that, that they hit tones that we don't hear and stuff like that. So I think projecting those sounds is more of a vocal, because if it's a to me if it's a vocal, then it's ready at all times. And
Right.
like you, when you make that noise, if you did that every day 100 times a day, you'd get better and better and better and better at it, and you could do it on command. See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like I used to be able as a kid whistle with my fingers. I can't do it now because I haven't done it in 30, 40 years. So
Right.
I think with them, they do it all the time. So it's very easy, it's quick, they can do it on command, and I think they can project it. But that's me. See what I'm saying? These are theories that when I sit with somebody, for example, Dirt Road, me and him we talk 3, 4 times a week. We talk for sometimes 3, 4 hours at a time, and we go over these theories. We talk about these things. See what I'm saying? Um, am I right? Probably not. Who knows? I might be. I don't know. But
Right.
it's everybody's theory is as good as anybody else's theory. See what I'm saying? Um, I think if you ever get an opportunity on your show, I highly recommend that you get Todd Neese. He brought a lot of stuff, that made me think, made me really, really
Oh,
think,
okay.
especially when you get into the metaphysical portion of it. I know people like to
Hmm.
say woo. I like to say metaphysical. You know what I mean? Um, I'm not a metaphysical guy. I'm a hands-on. I got to hold it, look at it, smell it, touch it, feel it, evidence kind of guy. I think that comes from my law enforcement background. I've got to see these things and feel it. So I don't get into that realm. I don't discount it. It's just not my cup of tea.
Right.
My plate is full already. Now I add that on there, and it's just a bigger rabbit hole.
Right.
Um, so Todd Neese takes that, the metaphysical, and explains why it's physical and why they see it as metaphysical when it's really physical. And it just blew my mind. I was like, wow, I never saw it that way. So, in a sense, the metaphysical people are not necessarily wrong. It's
Right.
just that's the way they look at it. And it was really interesting. If you go back, I think it was our second or third show. Watch that show. He brings up a lot, and it just really really opened up my mind to the metaphysical part, but looking at it scientifically as a physical thing, like wood knocks. See what I'm saying? There
Right.
can be an easy explanation that we're just not seeing. See what I'm saying?
That's really cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it is wild. I really enjoyed that interview. He was a great guy.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that's important about this field too, is to have a healthy skepticism, but also to have a little bit of that open mind too, where you're not closed-minded to where the evidence takes you and not throwing something out because it doesn't fit with your narrative. And like honestly, if I'm being honest, I do fall a little bit onto more of that metaphysical woo side of things. But if the evidence were to take me in a different direction, I'd like to pride myself in thinking that I would go where it takes me, and
Right.
not if I have something that proves me wrong, like we talked about, that's great. Now we have the right direction to go into.
Right. Yeah, I don't bust on people that's that what they like and stuff like that. I'm always open to them that I'm more on the physical side of it. But that's just my nature. That's what makes sense to me, and that's what I can easily put down on paper and define for myself. Like I said, when I go out, I'm doing it for me. And everybody knows I'm looking for that 10-second video. So um, that's what I want, and that's a physical thing. That's a physical evidence.
And
You know
I
what I mean?
think I think Bigfoot is a very physical thing. So when I say woo, I think it's physical with a supernatural element to it is my own personal thing. Like firmly believe that it is a very physical thing and that it is in our reality. And I personally I love the Native American and telling of it and their things. And I mean, it's been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And they looked at it as just a different tribe than them.
Right.
And I mean, that they didn't say, I know that they have their talks of the star people. They don't describe them in the same way.
Right.
They describe it like, oh, they're living over here, we're living over there. So when I say I'm a little woo, I think that there's something about them that makes them a little different than you or I. So that's what I mean.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's something different there. There absolutely is something different.
Right.
Um, but they do leave hair. They do poop. They do procreate. They do things
Well,
that they do,
yeah, they
and
leave
those are
footprints,
yes.
handprints.
And that's where I gear my yeah. I made a joke. I was talking to another researcher, and I made a comment: is if I'm in the woods and I see Bigfoot, and then a UFO flies over, I'm not even paying attention to the UFO because it's not my thing. See what I'm
Right.
saying?
Hmm.
I'm like, holy crap, there's a Bigfoot. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm gonna gear my mind towards and stuff like that. So I think, and like you brought it up earlier, um, I know there's a lot of theories and discussions on hair and how hair works with light and stuff like that. And I've been out many times with people, and I'll tell them, walk that way and until you disappear. They
Oh
don't
yeah.
usually get more than 20, 30 feet away. So it's really easy to hide. Very easy to hide.
Oh, it is.
I can tell you where I'm going and you won't find me. See what I'm saying? So you have to take that in consideration that, these things are good at what they do. And
Yeah, and we're in their home, and you're right. Yes, it's so easy to hide out there, and especially there's so much we miss. And it's funny, so I just went on my very first BFRO expedition at the beginning of this month, and I had a great time. And we went up scouting some locations for it in November, and one of the guys told me a story that he kind of scared. We didn't scare, but he kind of got some other researchers. So they were walking, and he got a little bit up on the trail. So he said he just kind of stepped off the trail, just stepped off, not deep into the woods or anything like that, but just kind of stepped off and stood there. And they walked right by him and didn't even know he was there. And so, I mean, come on, you have something. I mean, look at these owls. Owls blend right in sometimes with their environment. I mean, that's what they're designed to do, is to camouflage. They're not meant to be like a peacock and stick out, like
well,
they're with the environment.
exactly. On two occasions, I was walking, and it was one of those pine forests, but it was all saplings. I think the highest one might be only 10 feet, but it was all saplings. And there was a deer standing right there. And until he moved his ear, I didn't know he was there. He blended in so well with the color of the pine that I never saw him. Another occasion, I'm walking, and a buck jumped up not more than 10 feet from me. He was laying 10 feet in front of me, and I didn't know he was there until he stood up and ran. You know what I mean? So that's one of the key things I tell people. Everything is, if you're in the woods, and all the animals do this, all of them, panthers, bear, rabbits, they all do this. When a predator's in an area, they freeze. They just stop because we see movement before we see color in the
Mm,
woods.
that's true.
So something can stand there and you don't know it's there until it moves. Like a
Hmm.
Sasquatch shifting back and forth. Well, you're going to see that. That's what drew your eye to that. See what I'm
Right.
saying? And it's the
Hmm.
same with deer. It's the same with panther. It's all of them. They freeze. Your cat does it. If you have a pet cat, they'll just freeze. They just stop. See what I'm saying?
Right.
Because your eyes will pick up movement before it picks up color. So,
Hmm. No, that's so true. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. That's one of
So
the
talk
things.
about some of the. Oh
Oh, go
no, go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go.
No, I was just gonna go into. So you talked about your footprint. You found the footprint, and those are always fantastic to get. Footprints are amazing. You know what I mean? I was there also at the same conference that you were at with Meldrum and Moorhead and Pilates and all them. I was there. I did purchase the Patterson Gimlin footprint because
Oh,
that's what starts
cool.
this whole thing. And so I
Hmm.
purchased this footprint. Matter of fact, let me see if I can pull it up. So I have the
Oh,
footprint. This is
wow.
this is from Meldrum. This was an exact copy of Patterson Gimlin, and
Wow.
I have it for because I wanted a piece of history, really, and it
Hmm.
was important to me to have something, especially from Meldrum, because I think the guy is amazing. Um, but especially on the PG film, he convinced me more years ago that the PG film was real than M.K. Davis or Gatewood or anybody else. He did this seminar where he really, really broke it down, starting at the toes, working to the heel, up the shins, up the thigh, and it was just amazing how he broke it down. Where you walk away going, "Yep, that film is absolutely 100% real." So
Oh, he's a fantastic, fantastic speaker. Oh, I loved it.
it's amazing. He's one of those guys that is extremely smart, and he can use big words, and you understand him. you
Hmm.
know, because I don't pride myself on I pride myself on being a layman, but I understand everything that he says, everything.
Right.
So trying to look in the chat room see if anybody's got any questions. So talk about any structures, anything like that you've come across.
Yeah, so as far as structures go, I don't want to say I'm on the fence with it. But kind of like you in the sense of trying to figure out, what's real, what's natural. I have come across, in fact, this past weekend just came across a really strange structure at the Green Swamp that wasn't, in my opinion, natural. And it kind of made this big A and X. So that was really cool. And then there was this pine cone like shoved into the broken end. And when I went to go take the pine cone out, I had to use like some force to get out. So it wasn't like it just kind of fell. It was deliberately like shoved in there. And so that was really interesting to see. And so I think I'm kind of always like looking for that bedding and that nesting area because I'm wondering, if there's some kind of connection between a structure and that, kind of like how a hunter would make a blind or something along that lines. I don't know the exact reason behind a structure, but we did come across this really crazy one in the Green Swamp. I'll have to send you a picture. And I showed Mandy and she's like, no way. She's like, that's you didn't do that. Like, that's not like whatever. And I was like, no, we literally came across that. And and it really wasn't that far from where I had initially found the first footprints anyways. And as the crow flies, it's right there. Which would be nothing for a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch to cover that area. So I have seen some pretty cool structures out there, but I'm still a little I don't understand what they mean yet.
Yeah, I don't think we will ever really know what their purpose is or what their meaning is without a Sasquatch telling us. We can
Right.
only speculate, and that's one of my red flags. Really, when I'm talking to somebody, I think structures are real. I think they're a true key that you're in the right area. But when
Mhm.
somebody tells me what it is, you know what I mean? Oh, this is what it means. How do you really know that? How do you really know that? My thing is, I found some really fantastic arches that the. I found one. This tree had to have been 20 feet tall, bent, not just bent like an arch like this. It was bent like this, like a horseshoe. Okay, and the end of it was shoved into the ground. So I
Wow.
look for things that stick out. Like, okay, I can't explain this, or it's an arch and it's 20 feet away, and the next tree is 20 feet away, and it's wound between those trees. See what I'm saying?
Right.
So I can see the wind putting it there, but then did the wind bend it here and then bend it again? See what I'm saying? So I look for things that are like unexplainable. That wow, something had to have done that to make that arch like that. The things I stay away from are X's, for example. I always use the analogy that if you take two pencils and throw them down, they're always going to form a T, an X, or an L. And so that's natural to me. See what I'm saying? So when I see an X, to me it's natural. They fell that way at some point. One fell earlier, to later on another one fell. The wind changed direction or whatever. But if it's an X and I can see that it was drug over there, or let's for example, if I'm in a pine forest, or no, let's reverse that. I'm in a hardwood forest and there's 2 pines. There's no pines within 100 yards of me. So
Right.
now you can look at the X and go, okay, something's different here. Something's not right. See what I'm saying? But just walking through the woods and finding X's, I kind of discount a lot of those due to, especially in Florida, we get hurricanes, we get high winds, we get things that, and Mother Nature does crazy things.
She's a
Mother,
beast.
she does crazy things. She really does. And
Hmm.
you have to rack it up to Mother Nature sometimes and say, oh, yeah, it's weird. It's absolutely weird. And I'll document it. But my viewpoint is Mother Nature did this. See what I'm saying? I did a video a while back where there was this X. And I'm filming it and I'm talking. I say, let me show y'all what I'm talking about. So I'm walking towards the X, and as I got closer and I walked around it, the branches were far apart from each other.
Oh, that's
See what I'm
cool.
saying? But when
Yeah.
you looked at it this way, they looked like they were crossing each other. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So those are natural formations, natural things. So
And that reminds me while you're talking, actually, not that long ago, and I don't think Marion will mind me saying this, is that she is that healthy skeptic. And for I always if she finds something like that interesting, I know I'm gonna find it interesting because I don't want to say she's a hard sell, but she's very logical and I
yeah,
love that. And so she's not gonna, see the first thing and go, oh my gosh, it's very, very methodical about it. And we were in this one spot and she said, I gotta show you. She had gone there on her own and we were coming there a different day. And this tree was completely pinned down. And the way that it wasn't like pinned down naturally. She's like, did the hunter do that? Was that Bigfoot? I don't know. Like, we didn't see what it was, but that was really cool. And getting to see that it's quite literally like pulled down kind of around. It is put there. It wasn't just like, another tree fell and caused that. So that is really interesting. We just came across that one not long ago. I totally forgot about that, but that was really cool.
well, and my advice is, regardless, document it. Go ahead and take the picture because
Hmm.
down the road it may come back. You might say, "Hey, wait a minute." Somebody's showing you something. Go, "Wait a minute," and you go through your stuff and go, I have something similar." See what I'm saying?
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm always big on documenting. Document it. Just go ahead and take the photograph. It doesn't mean it has to be included in your film that you're putting out or on your podcast. It's in the back pocket. It's there in case something comes up and you have something to go to. So I'm really big on you know documenting and taking photographs and stuff like that. Now I'm not big on just taking photographs of the forest. See what I'm saying? I do
Hmm.
take nature shots while I'm out there. A lot of people don't realize that, and I haven't put a lot of them out there. But I really love photography. So while I'm out there, if I see a trail or I see a tree or I see something that to me is beautiful, I will take photographs of it, and I might put it in a black and white or something like that to really bring out certain things that I see in my mind and stuff like that. But I don't use those pictures as Bigfoot proof or anything like that. And
Yeah.
I've got 400 and something videos on my channel, and not one out of 400 have I called anything a Bigfoot
Hmm.
because I haven't seen him do it.
Right.
I've gotten some great vocals. I'm vocals that just creep you out, um, structures, footprints, and stuff like that. Um, I leave it to the viewer to make up their mind on what they think it is. See what I'm saying? I'm just presenting it to you. I'm just saying, hey, look what I just found. See what I'm saying? I had went into this one area. Long story short, I found a footprint, and as I'm measuring it, as I'm documenting it, it's filling full of water.
Oh my gosh.
That's how fresh it was.
Oh,
See what
I
I'm
see what you're
saying?
saying. Yes,
It
like it
it
had gone down and out. It was coming back. Okay, yeah.
right,
Hmm.
and I'm in a swampy
Wow.
area, but and this was some dark earth and some pine needles and stuff, and it was a clear print. And I have to send it to you. You'll look at it and go, that is a footprint. You see the toes, you see everything. I measured it. I can't remember right now how long it was. I want to say that one was 13 inches. But anyways, it was filling full of water as I'm talking about, as I'm filming it. It's filling. So of course I couldn't cast it or anything like that because it would never set. But in my mind, I just missed something. See what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, and I've had a really close encounter myself. which is interesting when you talk about documenting, because even if, so what I'm about to, the story I'm about to tell you is, even if you're not able to perhaps take a picture, if you're one of those type of people who you need to write it out in great detail or you draw it, whatever you need to do, as long as you're documenting it and making sure you have that to come back to and to reference and things like that. If something happens to you, catalog it. And
Yes.
so in this particular instance, on the scouting trip, we're looking for locations, and my friend lost her phone. So we're at the fire. It's late at night, and we're like, oh crap. Okay, we'll go with you to help look for it, because there was a possibility that it was going to be on this trail pretty close to the campground. So we get up and we go. And so we didn't have Bigfoot in mind. No GoPros, no, not even nothing running, no recorder, just walking down the trail, hoping that all of our eyes on this will help us find it. And so this gentleman, he's up in front of me, I'm in the middle, and she's behind me. And we're walking along. And the way that this trail kind of goes is it goes around the campground and it comes back up behind someone's campsite. So I'm trying to keep that in mind, because you don't want to go tromping with your lights flashing all over the place behind someone's campground. It's kind of rude. So just trying to keep that in mind. And we're going along, and I see these two lights up ahead in the woods. And I'm like, are we already back at the campground already? And then they go away. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, and I'm thinking maybe that's a headlamp. Maybe somebody else is out here. There is hunting. I don't know. Because, I think coming across a Bigfoot would be scary, but coming across a person doing something nefarious is even scarier. And I think I'd be more scared of an unpleasant human than anything else. And so I'm like, Jeff, can you come back here? So he kind of comes back. I'm like, I just saw these two lights up ahead. What the heck? What was that? And so we're kind of like stopping. He was like, well, let's shine your flashlight around the woods. Like, let's look, let's see what's going on. And so I start shining my light. And so the two lights I had seen were at the 12 o'clock position. And so I'm shining my light, and they hit around the 9-10 o'clock position, and it hits eyes. And so the eyes that I saw were huge, and they bobbed up and down in this really unnaturally fast motion, and then gone. And I had this just chill come down my spine. That feeling of dread that we were talking about earlier kicked in. I was ready to GTFO from that location. I'm like, I'm over this. I'm done. I'm so done. And because then at that point, like, I'm really startled. And he's like, whatever it knows now knows that you saw it, and it is hunkered down back there. Like it knows that you could see it. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Like, that's awesome. And so, we have that moment where it's like, do you want to turn around or keep going forward? And I'm like, I guess we'll keep pressing on, like, I, again, don't want to be that person who's like too scared, but it's like, because we are out here to do this. So you got to like get it together and, keep on going. And we keep going a little bit. And that's when Jeff goes, oh my gosh, I just saw this movement, out of the corner of my eye over here. And he's like, I just saw something black, paralleling us on the trail. And he's like, it took my mind a minute to process this. We're like, what? Oh my gosh. And so, we get back to the camp, and I'm kind of shaken by what I've seen. And I'm just like, I don't even know how to explain this. This was like the craziest thing like I've actually like kind of seen. And so I drew it on my phone because it was still fresh in my mind. Like I said, I didn't have anything going. I just got out my notes app and I drew what I saw, which was basically, it's not Picasso or anything. It's just like a stick figure. I have the trees and I show the eyes and then how the trail kind of moves. And so anything that you have to document what you've seen, as long as you're writing it down, because especially if you're going on and doing this, and to pull those threads together later on and go, hey, wait a minute, I feel like, didn't I have this happen here? And you can go back and reference that. It's so important.
Well, I want to ask before anybody else in the chat room asks, did y'all find the phone?
Yes, we did. We did eventually. It was really right kind of at the end of the trail, and we were in the middle of it when this happened. But yes, we did, thankfully.
Good. Because I was asked, I've been asked by Dirt Road and stuff like that, and I have a lot of equipment. I have night vision and thermals and parabolics. I got everything. And he always asks, he goes, "What is the most important tool that you have?" And I was like, "My phone," because it does it all. It does
Mhm.
pictures, it does film, it does everything.
Compass.
And right, and I have the S22 Ultra. Same thing. I got a pen. I can jot things down and stuff like that. And I'm a big advocate. I carry a notebook in my backpack, so if it's a significant day and I find something or something like that, I jot down everything. I jot down the time of day, the hours that I was out there, the date. Was it cloudy? Was it clear? What was the temperature? What was the wind speed? What equipment was I using? What did I use? Equipment I used to document with. Just as much information that can come to mind, I jot it down in this book so that the same time next year, if I run into something again, I can start this pattern of when my busy season is with this thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because
Oh yeah.
where I'm at, I go through long periods where there's just nothing, but then all of a sudden things pick up again. You know what I mean? I'm not one of the people that buys into migration so much as they move a lot. I think they move with food sources and water sources and stuff like that, or us encroaching, they'll move to another area for a while until we kind of stop going out there or whatever. Because when I think migration, because there are some researchers that believe that the skunk ape migrates all the way up to Maine. I just don't see that happening.
I
I
don't,
really
yeah.
don't. So I think they do move. I think they're mobile. Same with Native Americans. Native Americans traveled. They followed the deer. They followed the
Mhm.
buffalo. They did things because their life depended on those food sources. So I think these things are the same way. Coyotes do it. Deer do it. They'll leave an area if there's no more food. Um, so I document all that so I can start formulating some kind of strategy next year. See what I'm saying? I can say, well, I'm not going
Absolutely.
out there. I'm not going out there in June because I've never had anything happen in June. See what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah. Because we do the same thing, but when the recorder starts going, documenting all of that time, location, weather. And one of the really cool things I enjoyed about going on the expedition was how methodical it was. And so one thing I think if you are going out with multiple people, it's so fun. I feel like you're always learning in this field and seeing other people's techniques, and you're like, ooh, I could really, benefit from, maybe implementing that into play when I go out too. And what we did is we'd broken up into these groups of like 4 and 5, and we had one person who is a dedicated note taker. You are notating anything of significance. You heard a howl, write it down, write the time. You did this, whatever. We got here, we lit the fire, literally like step by step, like what happened. And so that way at the debrief, when we all come back together, we can go, oh, that was you guys doing a howl, or that was this, or that was that. And so you guys can debunk and
right.
cross-reference each other, and documenting what's happening out there is so important, even just for your own thing, because at one
It
point
is
it's crazy
very
how
important.
yeah, and it's crazy if you're out there with other people how sound can travel. Even though we're positioned pretty far apart,
Hmm.
somebody lets out a howl. It's mostly flat here. That thing carries, and I know I have like a howl that I do, and it's like when as requested. Um, but
Oh, don't don't do that now. Don't do that. 'Cause they'll make you do it. The crowd will say, "Oh, let's hear the
oh,
howl."
Oh, no, no, no. Well, you know what? If we want to hear the howl, we'll get together in the green swamp. But I do this howl, and even I do like a whistle, and it's crazy the reverb on that, like the echo out here. So it goes far. So noting all of that to make sure that there's not that cross contamination with other groups and stuff like that is so important when you're doing this, because you don't want to be like, I heard the most incredible howl, and you're like, ooh, actually that was me. you
Right,
know?
right, and that happens. That happens. And to go back here real quick because Gant made a a very good comment. He says my pack would be 10 pounds lighter if it wasn't for the equipment, and that comes into what you said is when you're with a group. What's beneficial is each person is designated something. Like you said, there is somebody, their total job is document, write things down. Another one is strictly video. Another person is carrying audio. And one person is the pack horse. He's carrying extra equipment, batteries, and casting material. And I say that because I go out by myself. I cannot carry all that stuff. So the things I have to do without is casting material, because now not only is that heavy, but I also got to bring a gallon of water to mix it with and a bucket to put it in and stuff. It's too much for one person. See what I'm saying? So my
Hmm.
pack is already heavy, carrying everything else I've got: water, extra, bars to eat in case I get hungry. Of course, my tripod. I even have a small folding chair, so when I get tired, I can unfold this chair and sit down for a moment, because my fat butt is difficult to get off the ground. So I found that a chair helps out a lot. But if you have a group, it should be set up like that. Like, this is your responsibility. I mean, as long as you do this, we're successful. See what I'm saying?
Right.
If you have a sighting, tell us you have a sighting, even though he's the audio guy. See what I'm saying? It's okay.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
okay. See what I'm saying? You just always have audio running. Or, because you might say, hey, I just heard a wood knock. And he's like, yep, I got audio running. I got it. See what I'm saying? There's
Hmm.
always somebody doing something, and that's really beneficial, and that's the bad part of being by myself. I would love to have somebody go out with me on a regular basis. It's just difficult to find somebody that can sacrifice their time, because I'm not married and I don't have kids, so I have the availability to go out on the weekends, and almost every weekend, other than work or health, I'm out in the woods. It's hard
Hmm.
to ask somebody else to do the same, so it makes it very
Right.
difficult.
No, that is very true. And what we do is not, I know that there's all the TV shows and things that I think kind of glamorize it. What we do, and especially here in Florida, it's not pretty. It's hot. It's not for the faint of heart. And so you have to have some,
Mosquitoes,
yeah, and you have to someone who has like a good
ticks.
attitude. Oh, that's what when you said the chair, I was gonna say for the ticks especially. But you have to have like, somebody who has a good attitude and wants to go out there, and that is rare to come across. So being able to collaborate with other researchers is a really cool thing, because I don't think I would go out and do this on my own. I couldn't. I just think, but
Yeah,
if I could be a man for one day, I would go hiking alone.
it
I
ain't
just
got
think
nothing to do with being a man.
I
Brooke, it
know.
ain't got nothing to do with being a man. I get out there and trust me, I get spooked, I get worried, and
That's true.
it's not has nothing to do with being with a man. Because I know some women that are very tough. They can
I
handle it and they can do this thing.
I
I have
know.
no qualms with that whatsoever.
I
It's just
see the
being
solo
by
girl
yourself.
campers. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I see the solo
it's
girl
just
campers and I'm like, hats off to you, girl.
yes, yes. Because even when there's places I won't camp by myself. Absolutely will
Yeah.
not do it. Nope, nope. It's just too spooky, too scary. I've had too many experiences out there that tells me there's something there. I'm not doing it by myself. So usually
Yeah.
when I plan those trips, it's usually with somebody that's available or whatever, and I'll say, hey, let's plan this. Let's camp out for 5 days and let's do this. Most of the time, I'll camp out at a campground, but load up in my truck and go elsewhere during the day, someplace unassociated with the campground, and go someplace else, do my investigation, and then come back. The campground is more of a base camp. That's where I'm going to sleep and eat
Yeah.
and do those things and stuff like that. I'm not big on going in the woods at night. For the bottom line is, like I said, there's way too many things that can harm you, and now you're taking away the one thing you have is vision, and you're going to walk up onto something, step on an alligator, walk up on a bear, a panther. You're going to spook them because they're not expecting you. So it's to me it's not wise, and a lot of reports and other researchers have quite a bit of good success of having them come to them. They come to watch you at your camp. They're on the tree line. They're paying attention to what you're doing and stuff like that. That's where the thermal comes in good and audio comes in good and stuff like that. So I'm big on when you're at camp, talk, laugh, have fun, play some music, do whatever. And low, so because you want to, I'm not saying jam your music, but do
Right.
do your normal thing and just wait, and
Absolutely.
things may
Absolutely.
happen. But but tromping through the woods, no, I'm just not big on that at nighttime. Not at nighttime.
Yeah, because you're right. That's one of the things that will happen. I know we had kind of we call it cowboy camping, where you kind of go and you bring that chair and you set up a little fire or something, and then you put it out and you leave and go back to where you're actually camping or whatever the case is. And yeah, we've had moments where you're sitting there and you'll hear something or you think everybody gets quiet. And then it's like nothing happens. And then as soon as somebody starts talking, that's when you'll hear something. And I think you're right. I think you just have to be casual and try not to be aggressive or, threatening. And we've that's why I don't really like the death whistle thing. I think it's a little too we don't know what that means. It's a little
Right.
too aggressive. And we even had downloaded a girl who was in our group. She had downloaded some Native American like flute and like just some Native American music. And I guess on the playlist there was like a war song or something, and they're like, ah, and we're like, oh my God, turn that off. Because we don't know what they're saying, and it's like that preparation for war and how that could be misconstrued. We don't ever want anybody thinking that we're
Right.
coming into their home and showing those signs of aggression, and then we get a nasty encounter that we don't want to have.
Right. And that's why I don't personally hit on trees or make sounds because I don't know what I'm saying to them. I might upset something. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I really don't want to do that. I don't want to be your friend. I just want a video. So I don't want to upset you. I don't want to make you mad. I don't, you know what I mean? And so I'm good at just sitting there talking, having a conversation because again, I think they are intelligent to a certain point. We can discuss intelligence, but I think they're bored, and I think we become entertainment. And I think they'll come in. What are these crazy people doing? Let's watch them, and let's make sure they're not a threat and stuff like that.
Right.
I think they understand camping areas because they see people go to those locations, and that's where they build their fires. That's where they put their tents up and stuff. So I think we're television for them. Is just the way I see it. And so I don't mind sitting in a campsite and having them come in. See what I'm saying? And they do come into camp. I've had them come into a camp. I've had some, and I'm not going to go into my stuff because it's not about me, it's about you. But, we're going to have a show later when we discuss these things, me and Johnny. But Johnny just recently, he did a video where something came into camp. See what I'm saying? So I'm all for just chilling. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The woods just, I don't think is geared towards humans at nighttime. So
Yeah, and that's why it's good if you're going somewhere at night to scout it during the day, know where you're going, and so you are comfortable going there in the night, maybe even prep. And that's what we did is we had okay, this is where we're going to come tonight. And it was really cool. The spot, it was like a natural bowl in the pine trees, and it was just it kind of went down, not into a pond or anything, but it just had kind of went down and concaved in a little bit. And so if something potentially wanted to come up and look down or in or something, it would be a little non-threatening. And we even staged the area. We cleaned it up a little bit. We left some firewood, and we're like, okay, we're going to come back here. It's not far off the trail. I mean, the trail's here and it's there. So if you're going somewhere at night, knowing where you're going and keeping your wits about you, because, it only takes, one time for something bad to happen. And,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. And that's one of the things I'm at fault, and it's due to the fact that equipment just gets heavy after a while. Is I don't carry a first aid kit, and I have some first aid stuff, but not enough that I would probably survive whatever got me or whatever.
right.
So, but yeah, you have to be careful. Absolutely, have to be careful.
Hmm.
So, um, so as far as vocalizations, you had the opportunity to be able to record some vocals.
Yeah, and I'm actually going back through some vocalizations from the expedition, and it was really cool. We were in this one spot. We were at night, but again, this is somewhere that we know it's right. We're on the trail. But we had gone there during the day. We scoped out the area. It wasn't far from this kind of main, I don't want to call it a road because it's in the middle of the national forest, but off of a main area there. And so we knew where we were at, we knew where we were going, and we were the first group that got there. There was another group that was going to come down the way and position themselves a little closer to the river. And so we had got there. We got settled in and we're like, hey, the one guy in the group was like, do you want to do some kind of a provocation before everybody rolls in here? And, let's just see. And it was really cool. I've never seen anybody have this before. And I kind of, it's really interesting. You know, those old pop guns, like that you would see at like Cracker Barrel or something.
Right, right, right. I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm old.
Yeah. Well, he had one of those. And so he pulled it out, and this thing pop, and it goes boom, boom, through the forest. And he does it. I think I off the top of my head, it was either one time or three times. I want to say maybe he did it three. And so he did three of these things. And then sure enough, we get back this crazy howl. And I have my recorder going, and we get back this insane howl. And then after that, then it set off the coyotes. So I'm very clear on what coyotes sound like. That's the yipping and yapping and the crazy noises that they make. I'm not familiar with. I'm very familiar with that. So it was like that it stirred up whatever that was. So that was really cool. I'm still going through the audio from that night because it was only a few weeks ago, and I feel like February has just been a blur. But
Yeah.
so I need to get that and put it on the computer and really amp it up so you can hear it. But that was really cool. And sure, and it was actually really cool that we did it when we did it, because no sooner did we do that, within, I would say, 2 to 3 minutes of us doing the pop, hearing the how, coyotes are set off. Next thing you know, we can hear the other group coming down that main road because they have the windows down, and they're like, talking and stuff. And we're like, oh, there they are. We hear them. So we were really happy that we decided to do that, because overall it was a pretty quiet night that night. Aside from that, we didn't have much activity after that.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to catch some really good vocals, and I think the one that sticks out the most for me, because we've gotten some good ones. I say we because other people have been with me in the past where we've recorded these sounds. But I had a documentary crew out with me about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Um, and they were filming and flying a drone and documenting what I was doing and stuff like that. And we got into this wooded area where there was this fire break that was going into the
Mm.
woods. And I was talking, and I was like, one time I was standing here at this exact spot, and a couple 100 yards down that fire break, it looked like something had leaned out and was looking at me. So what I did was I turned my back towards it and put up my camera to film over my shoulder to see if I could catch whatever it is, like I'm not paying attention. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I was discussing that, and so I'm looking down the fire trail telling that story, and all of a sudden, 100 yards or more down there, this palmetto bush that was off to the side of this fire break went like that. It just went to one side really fast. And so I said, "Oh my crap!" I said, "I just saw that bush, that palmetto bush, just move, just like it got shoved." You know what I mean? Not more than I get that out of my mouth, you hear this, and it was real loud, and it was in that direction. And the camera guy and the other person that was there that was doing the talking, the producing type stuff, they just stared at me, and here I am. I'm freaked out. I'm freaked out. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm
Right.
I'm 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 acting like the big bad Bigfoot guy, and I'm like, "That did you hear that?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've heard that before. I've recorded it in the past." And I'm like playing it off like this is normal, and it ain't normal. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, long story short, they never came back to finish the documentary. So it
No, they
is what
didn't
it is. You
pitch a
know.
tent for the night.
Yeah. But I do go out at night. It's just not what my preference. If I'm by myself, I don't. But if I'm with others, I will. But I like to stay on main trails and stuff like that. I don't want to break brush or anything like that. So,
Yeah, and as far as sightings and stuff go, I think that that's really interesting, and people can go on the BFRO or the Bigfoot Mapping Project and see different Class A, and I think they're color coded and stuff,
hmm
as to what they are. But if you read some of these reports, I mean, I think you have just as much luck of seeing one on driving down the road. Honestly, during the daytime, I think you hear in these stories so many. I know some people argue it's nocturnal, or this or that, but I think you
well,
have just as much luck at 11 a.m. than you do as you do at 11 p.m. I think if you're going to see it, you're going to see it. It's meant for you to see that day. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. And I brought
Yeah.
it up in the past. If you look at, and you've probably read a lot of reports on the BFRO, on Bigfoot Mapping Project. I'm a big fan of Bigfoot Mapping Project. I'm
I
big
have
on anybody that has a sighting or anything, document it on there, because people like me will go there and see it and go, wow, that's near me, and somebody has a sighting. I'm going to go in that area. You know what I mean? So I think it's important. But that was one of the things I always brought up is when you read all these reports, the majority are at daytime.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always at nighttime. And I
Mm-mm.
tell people all the time, it's happenstance. Almost 99% of Bigfoot sightings
Yep.
is happenstance. It's not by Bigfoot researchers. It's by a
No.
hiker, it's by a camper, it's a fisherman, it's a hunter, it's somebody driving a car down the road and it ran across. It's happenstance. So I encourage people to get out in the woods and hike and stuff like that. Not necessarily look for Bigfoot, but you have just a good chance of encountering something as we do that are going out there all the time. Now I'm big on researching, don't get me wrong. I think it's a
Right.
numbers game. The more you're
Well,
out there, the
I was
better
gonna
your
say
chances.
you're not
You
gonna see
know?
it just hanging out on your couch.
No, no.
You know, you
I'm
gotta increase your probability.
right. I'm very, very big on getting out there and being a part of it. But again, just going out for a hike, you have just as good of a chance as anybody else. You know what I mean? Granted, as a researcher, I break trail. I'll get off the trail, start digging through the woods, and getting into areas that I think they would stay in or whatever. But like I said, those people that saw it weren't doing that. They weren't doing that. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
also believe that Bigfoot. That's why I'm not a. I'm not nothing against the guy. I'm just not a big fan of Pilates because I think he creates a fear of the woods with
Hmm.
it, with what he documents and what he puts in his books. I think it creates. I don't want anybody afraid of the woods. I want
Yeah.
people out there doing this thing. And when you read his stories or you watch his videos, you're like, I ain't going out there again. I'm not. I'm not going to
And
disappear. And
right.
I'm not big on that. I'm
Because I
like,
think, to your point, I think what he does is a little bit outside of Bigfoot. If we're talking like Bigfoot specifically, he does have some. He like I really enjoyed his book, The Hoopa Project.
mhm,
Really enjoyed that one. Very, Bigfoot focused because that. For those people who don't know, the Hoopa Reservation is out in California, and it is think it's not far or connects to the property of Bluff Creek where the Patterson Gimlin film occurred. And so the Hoopa Reservation, the Hoopa people, again, the Native Americans and their tales, they've had sightings. So him and this forensic drawer artist went out there to talk with the First Nations people and get a sketch artist out there and do that. So that one was very Bigfoot focused, and that was really really cool. But I think when we get into the missing 411, I think that like the scope kind of goes out a little further, and I think he's alluding at something a
right,
little bit more than just Bigfoot. And now if you focus on his missing 411 stuff, that is pretty freaky. But
yeah.
if you pull that away and you look at some of his other stuff that's just Bigfoot, it's a little less scary. But yeah, the missing 411, that is a little scary.
Yeah, last year I got to meet Renee Holland from Finding
Mm.
Bigfoot.
Hmm.
What a wonderful person. I don't know if you ever got a chance to meet her or talk to her. She is just a wonderful person, and she's doing this. She's for evidently a number of years. Is she works with a lot of First Nations
Mm.
on other things like bears and stuff like that. But she's with them, and I'm pretty sure Bigfoot comes up every now and then, and they discuss it and stuff like that. Um, so I'm really big on the whole Native American side of these stories and stuff like that. I have, especially the last couple of months, dug and dug and dug trying to find any Native American, especially Seminole or something like that here in the state of Florida, to talk to me. Let's talk about this stuff. I'm not going to judge you. I want to hear this stuff, and it's so hard to get somebody to open up and talk about it and stuff like that. So, like this year, the Bigfoot conference,
Hmm.
I'm really interested in meeting. Who's going to be there, and
Yes.
talking to him. And maybe hopefully get him on the show and say, hey, I really want to dig into that. You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
I'm very interested in it, and I brought it up on one of the past shows. I was not aware of this. I had to Google this. Um, the Seminole Indians, which is, if you ask anybody, what's the number one Indian tribe in the state of Florida? It's the Seminole Indian.
Right.
There is documentation of Seminole Indians going back as far as 14,000 years.
Wow.
That's unbelievable. I never knew it went
Mhm.
back that far. And I was like, holy crap. The things that they
It's a long
would know
time.
or seen or be a part of in 14,000 years, I would love to hear it. I'd love to hear it, But it's just so difficult, to really delve into that with them. I've got feeders out there. I send messages out to, you know, directly
I
to their
think
emails to these places and say, hey, I really, really would love to talk to somebody.
I think I know who you're talking about. That will be a good person to talk to. And actually, at the Christmas party this year, I was gifted a little. I don't have it right here, but I was gifted a little Bigfoot statue that was blessed by the Seminole Indian tribes. So I carry that now with me when on my investigations because it's just a little guy, So I keep it with me.
Right.
And I actually had a conversation with the individual that you're talking about, and was able to ask some questions, and it's very interesting. And there was a sighting that I know of that was on the Seminole Indian tribe not long ago, and that was over in November. Because from what I understand, is that they do leave out food. Some of the people leave food and items out for it, and that they saw it going back into the woods after getting some of those items. So I have
Wow.
heard that there was a recent sighting and that's a huge, I didn't even know that they had a reservation that touched the Green Swamp, but apparently they do have one up in the Lakeland area.
Yeah, they, going back in history of the Seminoles, I mean, they pretty much owned the state and probably further. They probably went into Georgia because there's no boundaries back then as far as what we call Florida,
Right.
Georgia, and Alabama. But they were mostly southern. You know what I mean? I think when you get up further north and you get into the Lumbee Indians and stuff like that, especially up in North Carolina and stuff. But being a Floridian and being around Seminoles, I went to school with a family they were all Seminole Indians, and but they weren't the reservation Indians. They were regular guys.
Right.
But I wasn't into Bigfoot back then, so it would have been interesting to talk to them and get some ideas and stuff like that, because I'm pretty sure they can give some good advice on how to find them or what might interest them or something like that. But I really would love to hear encounters that they've had with them, their interaction with a Sasquatch, or like we call the skunk ape. You know what I mean?
Right. No, absolutely. It would be cool to hear something Florida based, because I was going to say the Hoopa Project book is really cool to hear some of the encounters that are out in Hoopa. But yeah, that would be incredible if we could get a good connection here in Florida, But it's hard because I think, we won't even get into that, but it is hard to get first for them to open up and feel comfortable talking to someone like me or you. There's just a lot of distrust and hurt there from years past. So if we can find a good connection, I think it's so important, and I think that we would be the kind of people who could, because we respect their culture, we respect
Right.
their opinion. We're not there to judge or poke fun. So hopefully this will be the year that we get a good contact.
Yeah, because and I'm definitely going to hit him up. I'm definitely going to talk to him while I'm there. I'm very, very interested when I saw that he was going to be there and stuff like that. Let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's talk about the Bigfoot conference. Now,
Yeah,
you're going to be a part of it this year.
I am.
So explain that. What are you going to do? What is your part of the Bigfoot conference
Okay.
this year?
So, a little background. So the Florida skunk ape, that's kind of like our nomenclature here for Bigfoot. For those who maybe don't know, I'm sure you all probably do, but just like, you have the Yeti or the Yowie in Australia, we call it the skunk ape. And so there's a little cool thing that they do at the conference here in Florida, which is we have a skunk ape roundtable. And that is where a couple of us researchers will get together and we'll discuss. And I will tell you, the panel has varying viewpoints, so it'll be a good discussion. Each of us hold our own very unique opinion on it. So we we get into it. We will answer questions from the audience. We will talk about our experiences. And when people ask our opinions, that's kind of the time that we would share, okay, what do you think it is? Where do you fall on the spectrum? And that is kind of where we enjoy that conversation and that banter back and forth of kind of diving into it and taking one-on-one questions from the audience and sharing firsthand with what we've experienced and what work we're doing here in Florida. So that should be a lot of fun. And I think that happens. I think that's going to be at the beginning of the conference because it's a long day. So if you're planning on coming, I would prepare and plan accordingly. It's an all day affair. And so it kind of happens in the beginning before the main lineup comes out, but it's going to be a really good conversation. I have some really cool stuff prepared for it, and I'm really excited to answer some of the tough questions and interact with people. And yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah, I was on the Skunk Cake Roundtable last year, and it was fun. And Brian King Sharp was the narrator of it. He was the guy, he got with us, and he gave us a list of 10 questions that he was going to ask. And me and Brian are pretty tight, so we kind of discussed some things before. And I was like, dude, I really need you to bring up this question, type thing, because I really want to hit on this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like you said, there's a lot of different people up there with different ideas and different things, without going into deep, but just on the time that we have spoken, I'm pretty sure you get a handle on how I see things and what I do and stuff like that. And I was on the Skunk Cake Roundtable, so you can just imagine how this went. Sitting right beside me was Tim T. So,
okay.
So there was definitely two different viewpoints on certain things and stuff like that. So it definitely made it very, very fun, very interesting. Like I said, I had a blast last year. I don't think it's our Super Bowl. It really is.
I love that you said that because there is nothing that encapsulates it quite like that. It is like the Super Bowl, getting to meet like-minded people and hear their stories. And I think now that we're in the podcast realm, that's something else I'm really excited about. Is I know how you said like the show's about me or about the guests, but I love hearing other people's stories. I genuinely love it. And I love hearing what's happened to them and being able to document that and take that and ponder on it. So I'm really looking forward to getting to interact with more people, meeting some new folks and hearing their stories, whatever they may be. Just come sit and talk to me. I'm excited to learn and hear all those different perspectives.
Oh yeah, it's a blast, especially when you're sitting there and somebody comes up to you and goes, "Hey, I'm a subscriber," and that feels so good. When somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm a subscriber," and you're like, "Oh wow," and you want to shake their hand and you want to talk to them and give them that time. I learned that a lot from Renee Holland last year. You've been to the past shows and you know how they did a little bit different how the featured speakers were laid out. The year that you were there with Jeff and all them, they had these lanes where everybody could stand in a line. So and Jeff Meldrum was the longest line. Then the second one would be Ron Moorhead. And then it kind of trickled down to the other ones. See what I'm saying? Depending on what people's interests were. When Renee was there, she was the longest line. You know what I mean? And she literally took the time with each person. Period. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, if it was a 5-second conversation or a 20-minute conversation, she took the time, and I just really loved that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So I want that as a part of what I do. When I see these people, I want to take the time. I want to talk to you. I want to understand and stuff like that. Last year I met some great people. It's just fun. It's just so much fun.
It is. It really is.
And I'm excited. There's a guy in the chat room right now, Mr. Athos. He's going to be there. He's kind of like our attorney. So if you have any legal questions or anything like that, especially if you run into a situation, Brooke, where any kind of agency is trying to deter you from doing something, he's the guy to call. He wants those.
Are we talking 3-letter agencies here?
Any one of them. It doesn't matter.
That's interesting because
he wants that battle. Lenny wants to take that on. So he's always waiting, So
Mm-hmm.
if you run into anything like that, hit me up. And I will hook you up with him and tell him what was going on and stuff like that. Because I've had
Mm-hmm.
my incidences with a certain FWC guy, and it can get pretty hairy sometimes. But he'll
Yeah.
be there. Johnny's coming, all the way from Georgia, and he's like, yeah, when I brought, well, what started was I said, look, I'm going, and this is what I'm going to do, and I said, hey, I got a hotel room from Friday till Sunday. It's just me. I can bring a cot because we're not sharing a bed, but if you want to come, I'll share my
Yeah.
room. So you save money. You just come and be a part. You buy a ticket for that day or whatever, and then leave on Sunday. And that kind of opened it up. He's like, yeah, I can do that. And so now it's to the point where he's bringing his daughter. They're getting their own hotel room, and he's going to
Awesome.
be there at the show and stuff like that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you're also gonna be at the VIP dinner the night before.
I am.
So
Hmm.
I'm really excited about that. Matter of fact, it was Lenny that hit me up today because he hadn't heard because he's doing the VIP thing this year, and he hadn't heard anything about it. I said, "Well, they're not going to give you any information about that until it gets closer." You know what I mean? It's to
Yeah.
prevent other people from showing up that are not VIP ticket holders. So just be
Hmm.
patient, and that stuff will come out. But that'll be a lot of fun. That'll be a lot of fun to go to the dinner and get some one-on-one talks with not just the researchers but also the guest speakers and stuff like that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the cool thing about this place too is that, yeah, you get to go meet other people. There's lots of vendors there. So there will be all kinds of, groups there, researchers, and it's just really a beautiful place to make some new connections. And don't be afraid to talk to people and reach out. I think that sometimes we can feel like we're on an island, we're in our day to day lives, but this really is the place where you can come meet new friends. And I mean, I truly like now have lifelong friends who are like family to me now, who I've really grown to love and care about deeply. And it's like all through Bigfoot. And it's really, really cool. So definitely come on out. It's going to be a fantastic time, April 5th at the World Equestrian Center.
Isn't that a beautiful location? The Equestrian Center is
Oh
just
my
gorgeous.
gosh.
It's
It is.
exact. If you shut your eyes, you can picture it. It's white picket fences, rolling
Mhm.
grassy knolls, and then you got this a couple of them actually, but this huge arena, and it has a jumbotron on the inside that no matter where you're at, you can look up at that thing and see who's talking and hear
Yeah.
it and hear
Hmm.
it. You know,
Yep.
like you said, a lot of vendors. They even got
Oh
a
yeah.
pretzel that looks like a Bigfoot. I'm not talking Bigfoot. I'm talking a foot. You know,
Hmm.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. If you're looking for anything that's Bigfoot related, from flip flops to T-shirts to whatever,
Oh my
it'll
gosh. I
be
know.
there. It'll be there.
Yes.
Um, there's people selling equipment. There was a guy there last year selling night vision stuff that I could not afford. I think the cheapest thing he had on that table was a couple $1,000. So
Hmm.
everything's there. It's like I said, it's our Super Bowl. You're not gonna really find non-believers there, really. I mean, it's really like our AA meeting. Everybody's got something in common, and we're all there talking about it. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I look forward to it every year. Um, it's a good time. It's a little bit of a drive for me, but it's worth it. It's a good time, and I used to drive up and come back the same day.
Oh
So
gosh. No,
you know
yeah,
what I
I
mean?
think I made that rookie mistake the first year, and I was like,
Yeah.
never again.
Well, I mostly did it because the next day I want to be in the woods or whatever I want to do. You know what I mean? Because when you go there, there will be people there wanting to get together after and go out in the woods and stuff like that. I won't
Hmm.
do that because it's usually very large groups. And the problem with having large groups like that is very little communication. And
Yes.
like you said, if somebody makes a wood knock, somebody else is going to say, "Oh, I got a wood knock," and it really wasn't. It's almost you have to dismiss almost all evidence. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Because
It's like
there's just
herding
too many people
cats.
out there doing their own thing. Right. You can't. There's not a. It's not like they brought out 50 radios so everybody can communicate with each other. I'm not giving my
Hmm.
phone number out to a bunch of people I don't know to call me and say, "Hey, I'm going to do a howl." So you have to disregard a lot of that. So it's to me, it's just a waste of my time when I could, you know, my plan this year is to get together with people I care about and working out something after the conference and going out to dinner and sitting and talking and stuff like that. Um, because the next day I got to travel. So I
Yeah,
want to get a good night's sleep and drive back and stuff
absolutely.
like that.
Yeah.
So so tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, so on Dark Florida, we cover everything from Bigfoot and beyond, and it's not just about Florida. I love touching on unsolved mysteries. In there, we do get into the paranormal, UFOs. Nothing's off limits. If it's interesting to me, we're going to talk about it. And so I like having guests on. So, if you have a story that you want to share, I feel free to reach out. Even if it's not Bigfoot related, I just like any kind of mystery, anything like that piques my curiosity. Historical oddities, love that. Like I know I did an episode on Coral Castle, which is here in Florida, and it's just this really cool piece of history. So I'm kind of a nerd, a history nerd in the same sense. So I just love diving into those things and topics that I find interesting or niche and or fringe, and having that opportunity to discuss it and learn as much as we can about whatever the subject is. And yeah, so nothing's off limit on Dark Florida. We cover everything from the Sunshine State and beyond.
So so tell them where to go if they want to watch your channel.
Yeah, so Dark Florida is available on all major podcasting platforms right now. It is mostly audio focused, but I do have a YouTube channel where I do post the show and other videos and content. And you can find that at youtube.com/Dark Florida. I'm very active on Instagram. So again, Dark Florida podcast. And I just made a Twitter for the show. So bear with me on that. That one's going to be Dark Florida 411. So yeah, you can find me on there, and the show's available again on any major platforms where you get your podcasts.
And you also have a Facebook page, don't you?
I do have a Facebook page. Yes, Dark Florida. Search Dark Florida. It is a private group, but if you just hit submit, we're happy to have you in there. I post all kinds of stuff in there, updates on the show, behind the scenes, things coming, cool stuff. I like to keep it engaging. I love people who engage. So come talk, ask questions. There, you'll never. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Don't feel anxious. Fire away. That's what we're here for.
Good deal. Good deal. And and you just started the podcast,
Yeah.
and she's growing, and it would be great if any of you guys that watch this at a later date, this podcast, or you're watching it live or whatever, go subscribe, help her out, get her numbers up and stuff like that. Because what I explain to people is the higher your numbers go on your YouTube channel, it kind of opens up a little bit more that what you can do. See what I'm saying? Not necessarily. I'm not talking about monetization, but you're just able to do a little bit more and stuff like that. And when you watch those videos, hit those like buttons and leave a comment. All the little things that you do on these channels really helps it grow. It
It
really
does.
puts it in the forefront of the algorithm so people can see it and stuff like that. So really, really help her out and check out that channel and stuff like that. Um,
Thank
I
you.
think. Oh, no problem. That's what we do here. We want to help people. We want to promote people. It's not like I said. This channel's not about us. It really not. We want to hear about you. We want to talk. We have good conversations, and but we want to promote what you're doing. We want people to take part in the whole Bigfoot thing. It's not necessarily has to be me. They may not like me. They may say, "Hey, Brooke's way better looking than Rick. I want to go to her and talk to her and listen to her." Rick wears the same green ball cap all the time, and I'm tired of looking at it. So, but you know, anybody in the chat room right now, if you have any questions, this is the time to ask some questions. If you have anything, because like I said, we don't do the questions during the show because I want her to talk. I want her engage. This is the time. Ask a question. We'll see it, and I'll repeat the question, and then Brooke can answer it or whatever. So, because it's been 2 hours. That was a great
Yeah,
show.
I can't believe it's 10 o'clock. Yeah, I
It,
really enjoyed my time with you. This was great.
no, it was a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to it, and I know we had scheduled it well in advance, so I know there was a
We did.
pause there where you don't hear from me and everything. But it's only because if I promote it 2 weeks in advance, people will forget. So I wait till we
Absolutely.
get closer and closer and closer and closer. And if you notice today, I put it out a lot today because today's the day, and I want
Right.
everybody to remind today's the day. And so I'm actually at work putting this out there.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
right.
and but it was, and that's when it was really funny because Johnny Halt calls me and says, "Hey man, I don't have signal. Do you want to see if she wants to reschedule or something?" I'm like, nope, show's going on. We're doing this thing because I've been waiting for this one for a long time. So I'm glad we got it. We have a
Yeah, me
question.
too.
Mongolian. I'm just gonna call you a monster. Where in Florida are you guys from? You start first, Brooke. Tell him, roundabout where you're
Yeah, around about I'm in the St. Pete area, Pinellas County, by all the
from. I know.
beautiful beaches.
And I'm from Central Florida. I'm surrounded by nothing but farms and cattle and forest, and it's pretty quiet where I'm at. So, no, Gant, you cannot put that comment in there and not ask a question. He put, "This is a great show. I'm saving my questions for when I see you guys at the Florida Bigfoot Conference." Oh no, you're not, Gant. You're going to ask a question. So
Yeah,
knock one
give
out.
us give us something.
Blue Eyed Northern is, what is the Facebook group again? So go ahead and tell them.
Um, yeah, it's Dark Florida is the Facebook group, and I believe that the cover photo is a little picture of my logo. It's going to be like a tan and black. It's a picture of Florida, and it says Dark Florida Podcast. So, my name on Facebook is Brooke Moreland. So you can always message me on there too, and I can always send over a link.
And Mog said, right on. He's in Central Florida as well. Something
Awesome,
about us Central Florida guys. So
right?
he's in Eustis. I've heard of Eustis. I'd have to look up where
I've
exactly Eustis
never
is.
heard of that.
Yeah. Almost on a daily basis, I hear about it. I'm born and raised here, fourth generation, and there's cities and towns. I'm like, where is that? You know what I mean? So, but yeah, looking forward to it. Guys, any questions? Let's do it now because I don't want to hold her up too much. Um, so he says he's in a Lake County.
Oh,
That's really
okay.
cool because where I live, there's a town not far from me called Lake Placid, same county, but there's only three
Mm-hmm.
town. There's only three towns in my entire county, and the entire county just went over 100,000 people.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, so it's pretty small. The county's big. It's just we're kind of spread out. There are just in Lake Placid alone. There's 27 lakes. So
Oh
you
my
either live
gosh.
on a lake or you're walking distance to a lake.
Right.
So skiing and definitely bass fishing, stuff like that's really big here. Really big here. A lot of bass tournaments and stuff like that. So it's a
Oh
lot.
my goodness. I
You know,
bet.
but I love it. I was born and raised here, and I have moved and lived other places, but this was this is always home. And those of you who have ever heard of the 12 Hours of Sebring big race, it's La Mans series races. That's really big here. Our population goes from 100,000 to 500,000 people on a weekend. That's where I live. I live in Sebring, Florida. So where the races are. That's why everybody knows. Oh, that's where the races are. Yeah.
Right.
Um, but I live in one of those towns where you go 10 minutes and you're in the woods. 10 minutes any
Hmm.
direction, you're in the country. You're either surrounded by cattle or orange trees or forest and stuff like that. The area that I research that I still have to drive to, but it's a preserve. There's no hunting. There's no fishing. You cannot drive on the property. It's all hiking and biking. That's it. So I really like it a lot because I know when I go out there, there's plenty of wildlife. They're not being hunted. They're not being, harmed in any way or anything like that. Like I said, I gave up hunting a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I enjoy going out there. And like I said, it's quiet. I can go out there and spend 4, 5, 6 hours and not see another person.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And we're hunting for something different now.
right? My gun is my camera.
Yeah.
And but I enjoy it. That's my exercise, and I haven't had exercise since December, so I need to get out there. So, No, I appreciate that. AJ says, "Good evening, everyone. Great show," and it was a great show. Brooke, you were amazing. I enjoyed it
Thank
so
you.
much. Um, Definitely message me. I'll give you my number. Um,
Yeah.
that way, I can send you some stuff that you can look at and stuff like that. Maybe send you some audio. I'm not an audio guy. I do audio, but it drives me nuts because if I'm out there and I record for 8 hours, I now have to sit and listen to 8 hours.
I
And I
know.
I downloaded Audacity,
Hmm.
and I cannot figure that thing out to save my life. I just cannot figure it out. And so audio is not priority on my list, even though I do record while I'm out there in case I hear a howl or something like that. I catch it on audio.
Right.
But my S22, I have the S22 Ultra. Fantastic phone. It's amazing audio. I mean, I record things that nobody else hears. You know what I mean? So,
That's cool.
it's my go-to tool all the time when I don't want to carry this or don't want to carry that. And I want to go
Hmm.
real light in the woods. That phone is everything. So,
Oh, yeah, totally. Well, I enjoyed my time here. Thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed our discussion.
no, I look forward to seeing you at the conference
Yeah,
this year, and hopefully we can take a little bit of time away from everything and shoot the breeze in person and stuff like that. And
absolutely.
you know, so again, everybody, thank you for the support, and please again show Brooke some support, and subscribe to her channel. And God bless each and every one of you guys. You guys are important. We do this for you, so we greatly appreciate you. Thank you. I'm going to put you backstage, and I'll be there in just a moment.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Give me a second. It's not clicking. There we go. All right, guys. Take care. Like I said, I'll be back. I finally, it looks like I'm going to get my weekends free again. So, be looking out for my channel as well, BFFG, Bigfoot Research, and we'll be getting back at it. God bless each and every one of you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon. And take care.